So Salwan showed me the statements you made in answer to the question, what would you like to achieve from the course? And so the kinds of things I'm going to say are derived from the things that were commonest in those statements. And I'm going to say things in three very brief areas: about sincerity, about the differences between choral singing and solo singing, and finally, about owning your own truth. Now, when I was a very young coach at Glyndebourne, I met a distinguished young singer for the first time, and I had always very much admired her singing. And after the first rehearsal where I was working with her, it was on stage, so I wasn't actually talking to her during the rehearsal. I went up to her and smiled and said how pleased I was to be with her. And she said, yes, she said, you smile with your lips, but I can see all the criticisms behind your eyes. Now, whether that was true or not, I don't know. I'm not in a position to say, really. I felt rather miffed because I don't think it was true. And whether she was being sincere in saying that either, I don't know. She might just have been trying to make sure that she had the upper hand in the relationship between us. We got on well after that. We didn't actually have that much interaction, but she was rather known to be prickly and difficult in some circumstances. So that has an interesting sideline on sincerity. I now want to tell you one of my favourite quotes, which comes from Donald Swann. I'm sure most of you will remember the extraordinary duo of Michael Flanders and Donald Swann. Michael Flanders would sing and talk at great length before he sang, and Swann was a very brilliant pianist and a minor composer who just sort of sat there and played the piano beautifully for Michael Flanders, and occasionally would make an interjection. And Flanders had been going on about sincerity. And Donald Swann suddenly said, yes, that's it, that's it. The most important thing is always to be sincere, even when you don't mean it. And that, I've been thinking about that ever since. And I think probably in the next couple of minutes, I might be able to throw some kind of light on it. The next thing I want to tell you about is an extraordinary event that happened just at the end of the last century in St. John's, Hoxton, a big inner London Anglican church, where I occasionally played the organ. And we had a really rather strange curate. And he asked me if I would participate in his children's talk by coming to the front of the church and facing the congregation and asking if the children would come and sit on the carpet at the front of the church. And he was absolutely convinced that they wouldn't. But he probably didn't realize that I was a professional performer, and this was many years on from the incident at Glyndebourne. So I've learned a few things in that time, I guess, and I worked out what I should do. I came to the front of the church, and very gently and kindly I asked the children if they would come and sit on the carpet in front. And I must have used what I've come to describe since as a very good authority-humility balance, because they looked at one another for a few seconds and then they came and sat on the carpet. And he was completely discombobulated. He hadn't thought that would happen at all. He thought they would all stay where they were. And there was no children's talk. He didn't know what to do and just went on with the rest of the service and sent the children back into the church. Now, those of you who are involved in Christian worship probably have the material for a sermon there on all sorts of different aspects of that little event. But I had become professionally sincere. And when I was asked to do this, I did it in such a way that it would sound, I mean, I had no moral imperatives to whether they should come or shouldn't come, but I did what I was asked to do to the best of my abilities. And that was a very powerful form of sincerity, obviously. Now, the only other thing I want to say about sincerity is a little story about Graham Johnson that almost nobody else will know except a few other people whom I may have told it. And that is because the first person who's singing tonight, which is Joan, is singing a song about, well, beautiful eyes. And you know that I'm rather keen on eyes from the handout I gave you, and eyes from the past. Graham Johnson more or less ran the company of schools at the Guildhall when I was there as head of vocal studies, and we became great buddies. He's one of the world's finest accompanists. I expect the name's familiar to many of you. If not, not to worry. You'll come across it now in the next few weeks, I expect. He said, now, there's a very interesting candidate coming this morning. She's the daughter of somebody I used to play piano duets with when I was 15. And this woman had the most remarkable eyes. And Graham, as you may know, was brought up in what was then called Rhodesia. He hadn't seen this woman for 30, 35 years. But he was very intrigued to meet her daughter. And the daughter came and played and had a very good interview. And we offered her a place. And we had a coffee break. And Graham almost needed helping downstairs. He said, "Oh, those eyes. She's got her mother's eyes. I haven't seen those eyes for over 30 years. And although I've not had an experience like that, as far as I can remember, nor the experience of the song from Guns N' Roses, nonetheless, I now own that experience because it happened to a friend of mine. And if I was having to perform something about eyes, I would have a stronger orientation towards it for that reason. And one of the advantages of growing older, there are many, despite the fact that when Somerset Maugham was asked to do an after dinner talk on this, he started with a very long pause and said, in fact, I'm still trying to work out what they are. But that's certainly not my position, is that you get a wider and wider range of memories from your past. And because I've had that shared experience with Graham, I now have something that I can step out of the frame of being a make-believe artist, which many of us are when we're singing about extraordinary things, into being able to identify with that kind of experience from my own background. I think that's all I want to say about Sincerity, but I noticed that some of you were talking about the difference between choral singing and solo singing. So very briefly, because I have a deadline of 1920 on this, I probably won't quite get there, which is good, because that will give us more time for you, is to say that one of the most interesting things listening to a singer is that you can often tell whether they've come from a choir. And you can often tell whether they were the best singer in that section. Because if they were the best singer in that section of the choir, they would be making up for the poor diction of all the other people singing that line with them by producing gunfire consonants so that everybody could hear what the words were supposed to be. Now, many people complain about solo singers having poor diction, but singers who've come from that route certainly don't have poor diction, but it's not necessarily a particularly pleasant experience for the listener's ear. If, however, they've been rather mousy singers in a choir and they've been amongst those who don't make their consonants properly, they often still mumble when they come to sing solo. Now, the object lesson of this is that, like in so many aspects of life, the happy medium is the right place to be. That you have a good sung line, and your consonants are very clear, as if you have a responsibility for making sure that the sound produced by 7 others is going to have words to it, but you don't actually go as far as to think that you've still got the sound of the other 7 singers alongside you. So that gives you a certain perspective on the difference between solo and choral singing, or choral and solo singing, since we're moving in that direction. Also, you can sometimes tell that a solo singer who's done a lot of choral singing is just waiting for the conductor to do something or tell them to do something. That they're not in fact their own master or mistress. And that's one of the things that is important when you gravitate from choir singing to being your own master and singing solo. And you need to develop what I've already mentioned once this evening, a good authority-humility balance. The audience have asked you to be there in one shape or form, and therefore it's right that you should impose yourself on them, but impose yourself on them with love and let them see into your heart. So that also is another aspect of sincerity. Another thing which is sometimes difficult when you are moving from choral singing to solo singing is the fact that you are alone among the many. And some of you have mentioned that you want to perform to a small group of people. Oh, that's fine, but eventually you may find yourself with an audience of more than a small group, at which point you really do have to take the lead and allow yourself to be in charge of the proceedings. Now, in certain societies that our grandparents or great-grandparents might have referred to as primitive, I believe that there are counting systems which go something like this: 1, 2, many. And I think there might be some which go a bit more than just 1 and 2 before they break into the many. But you need to work out with what your optimum audience size is for passing from being able to relate with everybody as a group of individuals, or whether you just have to look at them and relate with them as if they are just a group of people, especially if you don't know them. When I first started being a university lecturer, I said I thought it would be most difficult to teach groups of between 10 and 12, because below that you can treat them as individuals, above that are clearly a group. And bless my soul, most of my teaching for my first 3 or 4 years was more or less with groups of 10 to 12 people. So I learned about that threshold and that frontier quite clearly. Just be aware that there will come a time beyond which you cannot relate with everybody individually there. You can sometimes choose one person as a representative of the whole, or you can treat them as a group of people who, by and large, are very attentive to you. And if you really are experienced, you might find 1 or 2 people who are not particularly attentive and focus on them, and in a few seconds, chances are they'll realize that and they will look up and be with you. Now, beyond that, you can imagine whatever audience you like. And I'm going to say something which is not exactly about audience, because it concerns a conductor. But I mean, I suppose it is the same, really. He was imagining what I'm about to tell you. This was the French conductor called Pierre Monteux, who conducted the BBC Symphony Orchestra, I think, in the 60s, when he was very old. And he was very famous for having a wonderful marriage with a delightful woman who was still very much around in his life at that stage, always at his concerts and always sort of by his side and so on and so forth. And when he had conducted a performance of Berlioz's Romeo and Juliet, she came up to him afterwards and said, "Oh, Pierre, tell me you were thinking about me when you were conducting that." And he looked very dreamy and he said, "No, I was thinking about Eleanor Roosevelt." But it didn't have any negative effect on their marriage. She just thought that was rather funny and rather sweet. But that is quite clearly somebody who, unless he was just totally spoofing, and if not, it was still a fun thing for him to have said, that he was drawing imaginative inspiration from someone who clearly wasn't there at that time. Now, the last aspect I want to talk about is not being afraid of your truth. And there's 2 or perhaps 2.5 things I want to say here. The first concerns what I think was the first major interview given by Pope Francis shortly after he had become Pope. And a couple of interviewers, he was thought to be so illustrious they had to have 2 people to interview him, they were really badgering him about doctrine and saying, you know, well, can you tell us about Catholic doctrine? He was getting very uncomfortable, and eventually he sort of broke out of this mold and said, "Look, I know what I can be dogmatic about. I can be dogmatic about this. God is in every single one of us, not just some of us, in every single one of us, and that I can be dogmatic about." And clearly, that was very much his truth. And of course, all the Quakers who heard this clapped their hands for joy, because one of the most famous of Quaker sayings is from George Fox, advising people to walk cheerfully over the world, relating with that of God in everyone. And so we were well pleased with that, and we've continued well pleased, I think, with Pope Francis ever since. But that was clearly an example of him being very passionate, so I can remember it now, and very dogmatic about something that was very much his truth. Some of you will know E.M. Forster's Howard's End. Some of you might already know why I'm referring to it right now. On the title page, there are 2 words followed by a row of dots. Only connect. And when you're performing, you can lead the audience by the hand. And if you have a choice between giving them one interpretation or another, then you can choose to give them the one you think they would like best. And they might ask you to sing again, apart from any other more altruistic considerations. So please do be aware of the importance and the ears of the audience. I often ask people when they're singing not to sing what they want to sing, but to sing what they would like the audience to hear. And finally, and I probably was reminded of this just by talking about Pope Francis, the French composer Eric Satie, who was a sort of an icon for the iconoclastic composers and musicians of most of the 20th century, was actually a fairly devout Catholic. And he often went to Mass. And afterwards, he would say quite quietly to his friends, "Ah, j'ai communiqué un peu ce matin." I communicated a little this morning. Now, j'ai communiqué meant that he took communion. But he actually was using it to indicate that he had made contact, he'd made communion with something much grander and more cosmic than himself. So I'm sure that's quite a different kind of talk about singing from what you've had from the other people, but it is mostly, I hope, central to aspects of performance. It's not written down. I've just got notes here, but if you badger Sal want to badger me, I can probably give you a digest of it. But anyway, this is being recorded, and I'm perfectly happy for you to have a recording. So I think it's about time to hear the song from Guns N' Roses. So,
hey, Robin, just before that, can I say thank you? A wonderful, beautiful talk. And I just wanted to speak to you all very quickly first to say that I don't know how some of you might be feeling having to perform this evening. I know it feels like a significant occasion for me, and I'm just watching. So, yeah, I just want to really say that this is your moment now to bring forward what's true for you. And we have this really beautiful platform to have somebody like Robin come in, and all of you as well. And, you know, whatever you're feeling now, whatever nervousness there may be or excitement, you know, just allow all of that to be, and, you know, trust in the momentum of this evening. I really look forward to hearing all of your performances. Okay, Robin, if you'd like to go through the song.
So Joan, please sing us your Sweet Child. You'll need to unmute first.
There we go. I just did it. There we go. Okay. She's got a smile that it seems to me reminds me of childhood memories when everything was as fresh as the bright blue sky. Now and then when I see her face, takes me away to that special place. If I stared too long, I'd probably break down and cry. Oh, sweet child of mine. Oh, sweet love of mine. Her eyes remind me of us. Uh-oh. I don't have the words.
I thought you were going to invent something nice. What I've got on this in front of me is she's got eyes of the bluest skies. You see, that's probably because I've been thinking about that. You don't want to get into that now. Anyway, lovely so far. No, please. Are you okay for picking up there?
I'm good. She's got eyes of the bluest skies, as if they thought of rain. I'd hate to look into those eyes and see an ounce of pain. Her hair reminds me of a warm, safe place where, as a child, I'd hide and wait for the thunder and the rain to quietly pass me by. Oh, sweet child of mine. Oh, sweet love of mine, sweet, sweet, sweet child of mine, sweet, sweet, sweet love of mine, sweet, sweet, sweet child of mine, sweet, sweet, sweet love of mine.
Yeah, thank you. No, that's
I've
lovely.
been singing this. I've been singing this song so much that I can't believe I forgot the words, but just goes to show I was a little nervous.
This is the right place to do it. I mean, you know, there's only a few people that you know pretty well. You know me now well, quite after 10 minutes, after 20 minutes. No, that's fine. Actually, you did sound even better after you'd made your mistake. You were singing with 10% more energy, so that was almost a bonus, you know. But yeah, you chose a right place in which to do that. Now I know that this is sometimes difficult in this kind of environment electronically, but I would like a greater difference actually in soft and quiet singing. If you could sometimes not exactly approach the camera and whisper, but if you could actually make some phrases a little bit more intimate in terms of quietness. But when you are singing fully, be careful, and I can see this even looking at your full face. It must be quite marked if I was looking at you from the side. Be careful not to throw your head back too much when you sing the sort of the bits where the text is belonging to the heart and not to the head, all the whoa and such things. Yeah, you tend to thrust the head back, and the sound is not quite as nice as it is much of the rest of the time. And I also, the picture is not that clear, but I wonder if you aren't holding the jaw a little bit. I was once told by an Alexander Technique teacher that the body has 5 limbs, 2 legs, 2 arms, and a lower jaw. And if you could feel that the sort of lower jaw just hangs nicely in the face flesh, you'd probably produce an even more golden sound than you are at the moment. So maybe we should go back through and try that. You're presumably sitting down, are you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Are you all expecting to sing sitting down? I mean, I'm quite happy if you are, partly because often I have to get singers to sit down in order to find a certain way of singing. However, it would be it's not exact perversity that sometimes I think, you know, when singers are singing sitting down, they might be better off standing up. You might find some of this easier to do when you're standing up. But perhaps I should say, don't allow the shoulders to push too far forwards. And that, by compensation, would mean that you wouldn't be appearing to put the head back a bit. So, which part of this song do you feel is most difficult for you to sing?
Probably the part where you say, whoa, 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 sweet child of mine.
Okay,
whoa,
fine.
Sweet
yes.
Of mine. Yeah.
And without wanting to teach us the text, you might be a bit more aware yourself of the difference between sweet child of mine and sweet love of mine. Yeah, and give them quite a different colour. Yeah. Okay. Well, if you're happy to start in there, you're unaccompanied. We haven't got to try and find a place on a backing track. That's very convenient for now. So start in there, at the risk of your disappearing from view, if you would like to stand up, but that's entirely up to you. I'm happy to stay with you sitting down. Choice of yours.
Let's see
Okay.
if I can do it.
We'll see how you go.
I can maybe move this back.
No, I mean, you've almost gone back to the book stack, have you?
Whoa!
Well,
what did I do? Wait a second.
It looks like you've dislodged a camera.
I did.
I've done that before now.
Oh,
oh dear, sorry.
Okay, I think I've.
You may just have to deal with you acoustically.
Oh, there we go. Yay! Okay, here we go.
Well, nothing's changed with the picture.
So what do you want me to sing here?
Well, the bits you said were difficult. War, war. Yeah?
Oh, gosh, I have to start there. Okay.
Joan, we can't see you.
I think maybe
But we still can't see you.
I better start. Well, you can't see me?
No. Well, I suspect we can see a vastly magnified section of your neck and chin, but that's all.
Joan, I think your screen has froze. You might have came out of Zoom whenever you dislodged the camera.
I think I did something wrong. Yes,
You're
I'm
certainly
sorry.
sounding very
Here,
loud and
let's.
clear. I mean, maybe we can come back to you in 10, 15 minutes time or so, and we'll go on to somebody else, by which time we may have got your beautiful face back. Do you want to try and see what you can do?
That's a good idea.
Okay.
Let's do it later. I'll try to find it.
Okay, fine. So look forward to your coming back. So the next person then is Helen Douglas, with the voice of an angel.
Hello.
I better not ask you to stand up in case this is a similar disaster, had I? So, okay.
Okay, I'm just going to move a bit. Okay, is my sound okay, Solomon? Is that?
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah, it's a bit in and out sometimes. Okay, so I will try to sing this. Again, I have no accompaniments here, so I just want to get my first note, if that's okay.
Sure.
So I start in the right key. Okay. Hold on. Just remember. Take my glasses off. No, I can't see you, so that's actually easier. Okay. When I'm lying in the darkness and I'm half afraid to sleep, I keep thinking of tomorrow and the thoughts that lie so deep. Then I pray in talking whispers, 'cause I know that somewhere near is the presence of an angel come to hold me through my fear. And who are you who guides me, my messenger of light? Will you walk beside me now, beyond the day and night? Who guides me with words I cannot write? It's the voice of an angel, the voice of an angel, the voice of an angel, come to hold me close this night. And then I close my eyes and open the window of my heart, for I know that you will listen, even though I kiss the dark. And as I'm slowly breathing, oh, the night just lingers on. I hear the voice of an angel come to calm me with this song. And who are you who guides me, my messenger of light? Will you walk beside me now, beyond the day and Won't you hold me close this night?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely. Good. What do you think is the dominant emotion of this song?
I think calmness. I think it's an idea that there's somebody or something there that you can turn to if you need them. So
Yeah.
it's sort of, yeah, security, support.
Yes. Yeah, I thought you did that very beautifully. But what I'm going to ask you to do now, which you may find exciting or very difficult, or maybe both, is why do you always find your angel up and to your left? Can you try this time for a few phrases, finding him or her up and to your right? I tell you why. This could become quite important later on, because you're so much going towards the left that you're doing quite a lean. In fact, you're leaning the other way, but because it's almost as if you're trying to get a better view of what's happening up and to the left. So let's just, for the moment, just disallow yourself to go up to the left and go a little bit up to the right, and just see what happens. The other thing I'd like to say, you may find that very odd, yeah?
Why do that?
Okay, fine. Is that where the window is? On the
No,
left
it's
side?
in front of me.
Okay, fine. Well, you won't suffer from being asked to do it the other way. And the other thing, which is common to everybody, is, and Salwan will smile even broader than he is already, is what I call predictive breathing. Yes, okay, there's great calmness about this song. Certainly about the track of the person you're modelling it on, and why not? She's fabulous. And so I would like you to enjoy the intake of air almost as much as the outflow when we hear you sing. Again, Salwan will knows what I'm going to say next. There's an extremely fierce advice which says that the intake of air is the lightning, and the result is the thunder of musical sound. And without real lightning, the thunder is fake. So singing is so much more effective when there is a real energy in the in-breath, the energy of the following phrase. So there's two things there. One is to make sure that you're a little bit towards the right rather than towards the left, which may help to keep your torso, neck, head balance rather straighter. And also to almost, the purpose of this is that you can do some very enjoyable breathing. And the lovely sounds that you'll make as you breathe out are almost, of secondary importance. Not quite, but, see how that feels. Let's just do either the first phrase or the first verse or the last verse again. I don't mind which.
So what would you like just to sing the first line again?
Well, the up to come to hold me through my fear, if you want, or if you want to get the higher music, which was extraordinarily beautiful. The most magical moment when you went up the octave after that first main section for "And Who Are You Who Guides Me?" Wonderful. There's not time in a course like this to tell you all the things that were lovely. An awful lot of them. But it would be nice if you could just try what I've suggested: predictive breathing of calm beauty, and also not neglecting what's on the right-hand side of you.
Okay, so the breathing, to breathe, can you give me an example of that? What do you mean exactly?
If you're going to sing, it's the voice of an angel.
Okay.
Then you need to show us that is going to be something which is immensely consoling. You're humbly proud to be in communion with the voice of an angel. And all those kinds of things will inform the emotion in the breath that you allow into your body. It's my angel. Did you see that? Yeah? Okay. You might not want to be quite as melodramatically dynamic about it as that, but it's not a bad model, a rather crude and obvious kind I've just done.
So Will I just do the course then? A course?
Well, whatever. Yeah, it almost doesn't matter, provided that it's somewhere where you feel strong.
Okay. And who are you who guides me, my messenger of light? Will you walk beside me now, beyond the day and night? Who are you who guides me with words I cannot write? It's the voice of an angel, the voice of an angel, the voice of an angel, come to hold me close this night.
Lovely. Okay. Anything you've got to report about that, just very briefly, because we then move back to Joan for 5 minutes. Well, the first few seconds you sounded uncomfortable, and then you got more and more comfortable. Your eyes became freer and freer. They were seeing things that you hadn't seen before because you were looking at different parts of the room. Yes, which is good and refreshing. There was a much greater unity between the breathing, which wasn't just I need more air in order to sing. It was I'm having a wonderful experience, which makes me want to breathe in such and such a way. And it did, by and large, mean that your movements became freer, and you stayed a greater amount of the time with a more or less straight head, neck, shoulder balance. So just think about those two things. But otherwise, I mean, the singing is beautiful. It's sincere. It's very similar to what Emma Quinn does. There we are. That's a compliment. Thank you. But I mean, I'm looking at my clock, and I think if we're going to have another 5 minutes with Joan, we ought to go right back there right now. So thank you. Lovely.
Thank you very much.
All the best for the concert next week. Yes. So Joan, we've got you back. Yes. So can you unmute yourself and just give us a few of those whoas?
Okay, I should stand up and loosen my jaw and okay.
Disallow your head to go back too far, yes.
And don't allow my head to go back.
Yeah, and don't knock on the keyboard of the computer and send it AWOL.
Exactly. Okay. I think maybe I have to start at the beginning because
Well then we'll stop you after the first set of wars, okay?
Okay. She's got a smile that it seems to me reminds me of childhood memories when everything was as fresh as the bright blue sky. Whoa, sweet child of mine. Whoa, sweet love of mine.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yes. No, that was much better. Yes, you've transferred a bit of the tightness. This is a sneaky thing to say because I couldn't have known this before. You've transferred a bit of the tightness from the jaw into the arms, especially into the fingers. I've spent a lot of time working with singers' arms and with pianists' mouths because they're the two most socially mobile bits of the body that are not actually involved in the sound production. And I noticed that your fingers were rather splayed and tight, and the arms also likewise. So if you could loosen those as well, you can eventually chase tension right outside of the body, but it will relocate itself from one place to another. Sorry, I didn't expect that to be the case when I asked you to stand up, but it is. I sometimes really do need to see singers' feet. I hope that is not the case tonight because that would be quite an adjustment to the visual balances of the evening. But no, so I'm glad I had that chance to see your hands. But I thought that was very much better. When you have these phrases which are characteristic of this kind of style, when you break in the middle of a phrase, make sure that there's a linking breath. It's almost the role of the stand-up comic here, you know. Do you know what the answer to this is? Well, I'm going to tell you. You know, that kind of thing when you have those gaps in the middle of a phrase. So if you can have a crescendo of intensity through those gaps, then that will stop making them just feel like gaps. Great. I mean, and the jaw was looser. So thank you. Well done. Well, I think we've got to move on for time. I'm sorry that we've had you in 2 bits and perhaps had only 9.5 minutes instead of 12. But no, I mean, there's a really good authority-humility balance in what you're doing. You come across as strong, but in no way threatening, which is very comforting for us because we think, oh, this person knows what they're doing. I can sit back and enjoy this. Yeah, good. Okay, thanks. Now, my number 3 is Helen Gallagher. So if you'd like to unmute yourself.
There we go.
There we go. Yep, good.
There
Fine.
we go. Okay.
So, all yours.
Okay, I'm going to sing the Streets of London, which you probably know already. Okay. Have you seen the old man in the closed down market, kicking up the papers with his worn out shoes? In his eyes you see no pride, hands held loosely by his side, yesterday's papers telling yesterday's news. Have you seen the old girl who walks the streets of London, dirt in her hair and her clothes in rags? She's no time for talking, she keeps right on walking, carrying her home into carrier bags. And so how can you tell me you're lonely, or say for you that the sun don't shine? Let me take you by the hand and lead you through the streets of London. I will show you something to make you change your mind. In the all-night cafe at 11:15, same old man sitting there on his own, looking at the world over the rim of his teacup. Each tea lasts an hour and then he wanders home alone. And have you seen the old man outside the Seamen's Mission? His memory fading like the ribbons that he wears. And in this winter city, the rain cries a little pity for one more forgotten hero and a world that doesn't care. And then how can you tell me you're lonely, or say for you that the sun don't shine? Let me take you by the hand and lead you through the streets of London. I'll show you something to make you change your mind.
Yes, yes, yes. Well done. Now, the first thing I'm going to suggest, oh, my goodness, what have I done? I've taken myself off now. How do I get back on? I think I know. Yes, there we are. That was not just to make you feel comfortable, Joe. Okay, now, yes, but it was an excitement engendered by Helen singing, actually, because what was so lovely was when you suddenly added in 2 words. You said, and then, and it was as if you were about to bring us all in to sing the chorus the next time. That was really very magical for an audience, because this is the kind of song where you could very well be asking the audience to join in once the chorus came round for the 3rd or 4th time, which it can do if you sing it after every single verse instead of after every second verse, which you get to save time. One of the great advantages of this kind of group teaching is that you say something to somebody, and then the next person, intentionally or unintentionally or unconsciously, actually puts it brilliantly into effect. And there are all those gaps in those phrases. I mean, it's a bit like Schwarzkopf when she got into her 50s. She didn't sing more than about 4 notes at a time before she breathed, and it was still marvelous because there was so much intensity in what she was doing. And I was hanging on your every word. there. No, I was thrilled to know what it was going to be, and when it came, I mean, I got the text in front of me, but all the same, it was still a piece of magical newness. What you had to sing, and I think in one place at least you changed a word for something that was better than what was in the original text, and I sort of felt like clapping there and then. So yes, that was a wonderful example of how your singing is very text-based, which is in this context totally a compliment. In that it really does feel as though you're sort of more or less inventing this for us as you go along. Now, what I am going to suggest, though, is that you give yourself a slightly higher starting note.
Yeah.
Only slightly. A whole tone or a minor third higher, perhaps. I think you'd come into a better kind of, I hate to use the word focus, I can't think of a better one. You'd come into a better orientation with us if we weren't having to listen to your voice quite so low. I mean, you're going down to E's there. I've got perfect pitch, and that's if you could make your bottom note about an F sharp, I think probably would be better. Good. Now, what do you? So this is a complicated question for this song, and just say the first answer that comes into your mind, even if you regret it afterwards. What do you think is the dominant emotion of this song?
Loneliness.
Okay, fine. That encompasses everything, doesn't it? That's
Yes.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's going to be all sorts of satellites around the concept of loneliness in what you're doing. Okay, well then I think your breathing could be a bit heavier. How do you breathe when you're lonely? Well, you show us exactly now if you want, but you don't have to be put on the spot quite like that. But yeah, make sure that your breathing appears really lonely.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Oh, it's dreary in this house. I wish I had somebody else with me. I mean, from time to time, I expect during lockdown, you must have felt like that. So,
Of course, yeah.
well, there we are. You've got very strong recent evidence to play with. So, can you give me perhaps the refrain, either the first one or the last one, concentrating on or allowing yourself to concentrate on a real loneliness of breath? And if occasionally that means we hear you breathe in, provided we don't hear a rasping breath every single time you take in air. If it only happens once every 20 breaths, it's going to be very effective, especially if you have made an emotional choice about when you let us hear your breathing in. So
Okay.
there you go. Yeah. Do you want me to give you an F sharp?
Yeah.
Those are more or less Fs. That's only a tiny bit higher than you were. There we are. See if you can function with la as your lowest pitch.
And then how can you tell me you're lonely, or say for you that the sun don't shine? Let me take you by the hand and lead you through the streets of London. I'll show you something to make you change your mind.
What's your attitude toward London?
I haven't been in London in years. I used to love it, but it's 20 years since I've spent any time there. Yeah, I lived in the United States in Bermuda for a long time, so yeah. I wasn't in London as much. I'm more familiar with New York.
Okay, look, do you despise London or love it?
I love London, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Well then you could be more wistful about all this. It's a shame, isn't it, that London has all these lonely people?
Yes.
Yeah.
It does.
And that could be part of your real truth when you sing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah.
Calvin, how are we off for time now? Are we roughly with the clock or what? Another 90 seconds for Helen, or is that not on?
Yeah, no,
okay, right. Well, let's just have 1 more minute with Helen, and I'd like you just to start the song again, and I'd like to have a feeling in your first breath that you're taking the audience in your hand and saying, "I've got something to tell you." Yeah. So make the first breath predictive of an enjoyable experience to come.
Have you seen the old man who walks the streets of London? Wrong words. Sorry.
No, don't worry. That was a shock. It was a pleasant shock because the breath was absolutely sudden, and I was something interesting happening here. Now see if
Okay.
you can go to the opposite extreme and give us a really long and tantalizing breath. Have you
With the
seen the old man? Yeah.
Have you seen the old man in the closed down market?
Yeah, okay, but I'm going to ask something different straight away. I didn't mention this with Helen because she did it quite well. But when you give yourself a note, make sure the audience don't think it's part of the musical experience of the song. And when I see you go, it
Okay.
seems to be part of the experience of the artwork, and it's not really. It's just that's your MOT that you're giving yourself preliminary to singing. I don't want to see that.
Okay.
So, okay, I'd like to feel a real crescendo of breath, and we want to know what it is that's making you look so intrigued.
Have you seen the old man in the closed down market, kicking up the papers with his worn out shoes? In his eyes you see no pride, hands held loosely by his side, telling yesterday's papers, selling yesterday's news.
Yeah, okay, lovely. That was much better. The singing was even better too, because you were not suddenly sort of having to step out of thinking about yourself. You know you can sing, and so you were just letting it happen. Yes, that's a very good.
I tried to make that decision yesterday when I was getting myself in a tiz. I said, stop it, just enjoy it, sing it, you love it, that's it.
Yeah, there's a wonderful Alexanderized term which says, "Don't sing, let yourself be sung."
Yeah.
And that's really very good for everybody. Okay, so now next we have Lorraine with Caledonia.
Unmute.
You are unmuted now. Yes, good. Thank you. I'm going to mute myself because there's bits of traffic noise.
Okay. I'm just going to say before I start, Harry, I'm going back to the ukulele, but I've come to a compromise with it. So, yes, this is Caledonia, and it's a little lullaby really to Scotland, or love song to Scotland. I don't know if you can see the changes that have come over me in these last few days. I've been afraid that I might drift away. I've been telling old stories, singing songs that made me think about where I come from. That's the reason why I seem so far away today. Oh, let me tell you that I love you, that I think about you all the time. Caledonia, you're calling me, now I'm going home. But if I should become a stranger, know that it would make me more than sad. Caledonia's been everything I've ever had. Now I have moved and I've kept on moving, proved the points that I needed proving, lost the friends that I needed losing, found others on the way. I have kissed the boys and left them sighing, stolen dreams, yes, there's no denying. I've traveled hard, sometimes with conscience flying, somewhere with the wind. Oh, let me tell you that I love you, that I think about you all the time. Caledonia, you're calling me, now I'm going home. If I should become a stranger, know that it would make me more than sad. Caledonia's been everything I've ever had.
Yeah, thank you. Good.
Thank you.
Great. Something very interesting there. It was brilliant to not bring in the ukulele until the first chorus, more or less. And that was fantastic. And it gave it an extra oomph at that point. And then shortly after that, we began to realize that you were much more comfortable when you were not actually entirely on your own. This was this business about the eyes and second attention. Because you've got something else that you probably needed to concentrate on in a way, because I guess you're probably a bit more experienced as a singer than you are as a ukulele player, or is that not true?
Yes, no, that's true.
Okay, fine.
Certainly can't do both together very well.
Well, you're absolutely fine on the chorus, and it was nice that way we had a little bit more ukulele music on the second verse than we had in the first one. You know, there was a sort of a crescendo of intensity as we went through the song. I loved the way that you actually, at the end of the first refrain, made a gap before home. Because I'm going home. Yeah? And there you gave us the intensity of a sudden and but slightly surprising breath. I'm going home. I always remember, this is worth 15 seconds. I was at the retirement party of a couple who'd run a residential centre in Somerset, and they were in their upper 70s. And when he gave his little speech, they'd run it as a couple. He said, "You might think this is strange for someone of my age, but do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go into farming." And the fact that he breathed before farming made the whole thing so much more impressive. Yeah, and that was exactly what I felt with going home. Yeah.
Okay.
And it meant so much more than just, you know, being a newsreader and just delivering us the text clearly and neatly. Well done. They were the two main things. I just want to hear you sing some more, really. Also, I think you might also gravitate up slightly in pitch, but of course you can't really, you wouldn't be comfortable, or maybe the ukulele wouldn't be comfortable being tuned a tone higher. But yeah, if you need to feel that you're a little bit higher in tam, just you know, this is something I often associate with Irish folk music anyway. Just imagine that you've got a flute doubling you an octave higher, and hear that as part of your sound.
Okay.
Okay, that's a new concept for this evening. Let's see what that does for you. So if you can just sing us either the first or the second verse again, listening to that flute doubling you an octave higher, and see if that gives you a greater brightness on your tam. Yeah.
I'll try that.
I don't know if you can see the changes that have come over me in these last few days. I've been afraid that I might drift away. I've been telling old stories, singing songs that made me think about where I come from. That's the reason why I seem so far away today. Oh, let me tell you that I love you, that I think about you all the time. Caledonia, you're calling me, now I'm going home. If I should become a stranger, know that it would make me more than sad. Caledonia's been everything I've ever had.
Sorry, the timbre was more inspiring than before. You know, it made me want to listen even more than I did before. And you were also more daring about the way in which you bent the rhythms on the printed page, as it were. When I listened to the recording you've been modelling yourself on, it was wonderful the way all the first beats tended to move forwards, ya-da-dum, ya-da-dum, and that accentuated an aspect of the music that could well be accentuated, and I felt you were doing that much more freely in that performance than you had done in the previous. So yes, and allow yourself to get carried away. Yes, with you know, a shining face and a shining sound. There's a huge amount of energy of a very positive kind coming out of your face when you sing. I mean, quite a lot of energy positive energy comes out of your face all the time. This is the time I've known you, but nonetheless, it really does seem to be intensified by the singing, which is great. So you're in a very positive vortex between yourself and your singing, and it's in the interests of not making you seem grand, but the interests of making Scotland seem grand, which is what the song's all about. So well done, thanks. That's lovely. How are we off for time? Yeah, we're just about okay, aren't we? Who's next now? After it's Harry, I think. Yes, good.
Right, Robin, bear with me. I'm just going to pick up a guitar.
Yeah, okay, and I'm going to swap over the order in which I've got the scores here because I set it up for Mariam to be next. Actually, we're well in time for you, aren't we? So that's good.
Okay. Going to play All Too Well by Taylor Swift. I walked through the door with you, the air was cold, but something about it felt like home somehow. And I left my scarf there at your sister's house. You've still got it in your drawer, even now. Oh, your sweet disposition, my wide-eyed gaze, with singing in a car, getting lost upstate. And autumn leaves are falling down like pieces into place. I can picture it after all these days. And I know it's long gone and the magic ain't here no more. I might be okay, but I'm not fine at all. 'Cause there we are again on the little town street. You almost ran the red 'cause you were looking over at me. Wind in your hair, I was there. I remember it all too well. Photo album on the kitchen counter. Your cheeks are turning red. You used to be a little kid with glasses and a twin-size bed. And your mama's telling stories about you on the T-ball team. You tell me about your past, thinking your future was me. And I know it's long gone and there's nothing else I can do. I forget about you long enough to forget why I needed to. But there we are again in the middle of the night. We're dancing round the kitchen in the refrigerator light. Down the stairs, I was there. I remember it all too well. Time won't fly. It's like I'm paralyzed by it. I try to be my old self again, but I'm still trying to find it. After plaid shirt days and nights when you made me your own. Now you mail back my things and I walk home alone. But you keep my old stuff from the very first week, 'cause it reminds you of innocence and it smells like me. You can't get rid of it. You remember it all too well. 'Cause here we are again, back when you loved me so. Back before you lost the royal thing you'd ever known. I was there, it was rare. I remember it all down the stairs. I was there, I remember it all. Wind in your hair, I was there. I remember it all too well. It was rare, I was there, I remember it all too well.
Thank you. Yes, good, lovely. Well done. Yeah, that improved enormously as it went on. It was quite extraordinary. I made a few notes here asking you to do things, and it was almost as if I was sort of I wasn't sliding you little notices on chat, and you were looking at them, but it almost could have been like that because they were happening. And at the beginning, I put perhaps slightly. No, I won't say unkindly. Well, the word whisper was unkind, but don't whisper on fixed pitches. It was as if you were speaking on fixed pitches. But no sooner had I thought that than you began to develop a wonderful line. I mean, again, as with so many of the songs that are being sung tonight, there is this style of having quite long gaps in the middle of phrases anyway, so that it sounds both casual and intense. There's no great sort of long legato bel canto singing in many of the things you're doing, but that's not the style of it, so that's not a complaint at all. But I just occasionally I would like one of these gaps to be really a joining gap, and the principal one is I am not fine. Okay, so can you sort of feel as if you're leaping over a very small brook between not and fine, but it's still you, and it's still you doing the leaping. Yeah, you're not sort of picking up another sound from the other side of the brook. It's all still you. And I'm not fine. Sort of slight movement towards sarcasm, perhaps, with this person who has meant so much to you, and now really, you know, it's all over. And another similar place where I think you could have been more meaningful about your breath was, but I'm still trying to find it. Yeah, I'm looking for my old self. I'm still trying to find it. See if you can have an extra special intensity of breath for these key places. In fact, if you like to be schematic about it, just go through and make a hierarchy of breaths, indicating those which you think are particularly important, or give an adjective for almost every breath you take. My goodness me, there'll be an adjective a second and a half all the way through the song. That's the style. And then one more thing, which is towards the end, you became intense in a very particular way. And this can apply all over the board. You became intense in a manner that made you half close your eyes. And that's a pity, because when we need you most, you're beginning to withdraw from us a bit. So there is a very simple solution to this. When you feel that the emotions are germinating, which in everyday life would make you want to half close your eyes, encourage those emotions 100%, but disallow your eyes to close. Therefore, those emotions are then going to come flooding out over the audience, rather than being withdrawn from us by only having sort of 40% of the normal aperture that your eyes have in front of the audience. And I mean, I've never worked out a proper proportion for this, but even on a small screen like this, your eyes are probably 0.7% of the total screen I can see. I mean, eyes are tiny, and yet we do, compared with most things around, and yet we do, you know, gain so much through the eyes. And you've got very strong eyes, as I can see now, which is great. But don't reduce the value of your eyes by, you know, I mean, don't set out to ogle the audience, but nonetheless, disallow your eyes to close. Okay, so I don't know which bit of this you'd like to do again. I know. Yeah. Now you've sung through the song once. See if you can be more engaged right from the word go.
Okay.
If I stop you halfway through, it's a great compliment, because it means that you've achieved what I've been asking you to do. Okay. On the other hand, it might also mean that I'm so enraptured by what you're doing that I can't bear to stop you. So you see what happens. So occasional linking breaths. Of course, there'll be gaps. Yeah. But give us an idea of a line rather than just speaking on fixed pitches. Yeah, which was what you were doing for about the first minute. Okay.
Okay.
Good. Thanks.
through the door with you, the air was cold, but something about it felt like home somehow. And I left my scarf there at your sister's house. You've still got it in your drawer, even now. Oh, your sweet disposition, my wide-eyed gaze. We're singing in a car, getting lost upstate. And autumn leaves are falling down like pieces into place. I can picture it after all these days. And I know it's long gone and there's nothing else I can do. I forget about you long enough to forget why I needed to. 'Cause there we are again on that little town street. You almost ran the red 'cause you were looking over at me. Wind in your hair, I was there. I remember it all too well.
Yeah, I am actually going to stop you there because I think that's got more or less where I want to get, except that there's one other thing I'd like to suggest. And we haven't got as far as where you were half closing your eyes last time, or we were just short of that, but I got the feeling that that wasn't going to happen. This is something that I could say to everybody, but I'm going to say it to you here, because again, the singing at the beginning was much more engaged, except acoustically. And I would just like to hear the first 30 seconds again, or 40 seconds, as if in a laboratory experiment, really, this time. And I want you to believe that if I put a pebble, if I put a pebble in your mouth, it would be at least 7 or 8 seconds before I heard it go chink as it fell to the floor of your torso. I would like to feel that there's a great resonating column, a resonating cave all the way down your body to the base of the torso, where you split into the legs. That is resonating for you, because I think there's a lot more that we could get from your sound than what you've got at the moment. Are you used to mainly singing with a microphone?
No.
You're used to singing loud, out acoustically?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, well then show us that a bit more, and don't be lazy because you know you have got a microphone here. Yeah, but I'd like to feel much more space. This is metaphorical; it's not physiological particularly. Much more resonant space inside you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the first 3/4 of the minute again, please. Thank you.
I walked through the door with you, the air was cold, but something about it felt like home somehow. And I left my scarf there at your sister's house, and you've still got it in your drawer, even now.
Okay, I think that's on the pathway to what I wanted. Yes. Now we need to make sure that you don't lose the upper brightness as well. And what I sometimes say to people is to yawn in the shape of a capital letter T on its side. The stem of the T goes in here, and at the back it moves both upwards and downwards. And that time, of course, because of what I talked to you about, I got more downwards. But now if you can imagine that there's also a corresponding space going upwards at the back as well as downwards at the back. And the voice will ring wonderfully. Yeah? Good. Okay. That's very, very distinguished performing. But you do need to grab the audience from the word go. Yeah? Rather than just, get better and better as you go on. And by the end, we think, hi, he's really rather good, isn't he? Pity he's not going to sing us some more. When, we could have thought, oh, he's fab after the first half minute. Yes? Okay, good. Thanks then, Harry. And next is Mariam, yeah? Good. Now, I'm just looking for what I've done with your music. Here we are. Good.
just gonna do my start note again.
So you're going to be singing standing up, is that right?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, good.
So this is Warwick Avenue by Duffy. When I get to Warwick Avenue, meet me by the entrance of the tube. We can talk things over a little time. Promise me you won't step out of line. When I get to Warwick Avenue, please drop the past and be true. Don't think we're okay just because I'm here. You held me bad, but I won't shed a tear. I'm leaving you for the last time, baby. You think you're loving, but you don't love me. I've been confused out of my mind lately. You think you're loving, but I want to be free. Baby, you hurt me. When I get to Warwick Avenue, we'll spend an hour, but no more than 2. Our only chance to speak once more. I showed you the answers, now here's the door. When I get to Warwick Avenue, I'll tell you, baby, that we're through. 'Cause I'm leaving you for the last time, baby. You think you're loving, but you don't love me. I've been confused out of my mind lately. You think you're loving, but I want to be free. Baby, you've hurt me. All the days spent together, I wish for better, and I didn't want the train to come. Now it's departing. I'm broken hearted, 'cause I would never started. All those days spent together, and I wish for better, and I didn't want the train to come. You think you're loving, but you don't love me. I want to be free. Baby, you've hurt me. You don't love me. I want to be free. Baby, you've hurt me.
Good, thank you. Now I'm going to ask you what I've asked 1 or 2 other people, and it may be a very simple answer, or it may be more complex. What is the dominant emotion of this song for you?
It's sadness.
Uh-huh.
It's might be grief as well.
Sorry, what was that?
Grief, might be grief.
Yeah, okay, well, yeah. Nice to make a distinction between grief and sadness. But they're in the same general area. What do you feel towards him?
I know that he doesn't love me, so I have to let him go.
Okay. Now I'm very interested in the first answer you gave, because that wasn't quite what came across to me. What came across to me, and this is not a criticism at all, it's just a different pathway, was that you were rather angry with him. Is that what you want? I told you it wasn't a simple question.
Yeah, I think there is a sense of anger as well, because, like, you know, she knows that he doesn't love her.
Yes. Okay, because of shortage of time, I'm going to ask you to go down a particular road, and that road is, that was a very exciting performance, but I think we would have tears in our eyes if you actually concentrated more on your sadness and grief.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't want it to be slower, but I just want it to be, for you to have a more mature sadness, yeah? Oh, well, life is like this, but it's hard. I wish it was. I wish life wasn't like this, but it is, yeah? And some feeling that, you know, you still have feeling for him. Otherwise, you wouldn't be bothering to meet him at all at Warwick Avenue or talk. Yeah. Okay. So can you do? Oh, I don't know. Probably the first half of it again. No, perhaps the second half where you let's have that long top B involved in this. So I'm not quite sure. It's quite a complicated score that goes backwards and forwards here. What I'd like you, I think I know where I'd like you to begin. All the days we spent together, yeah, which is the sort of the long concluding section. I think from there to the end, without letting any kind of heroic anger override your great sadness. Yeah, let's see what happens.
All the days spent together, I wish for better, and I didn't want the train to come. Now it's departed. I'm broken hearted because I would never started. All those days spent together, and I wish for better, and I didn't want the train to come. You think you're loving, but you don't love me. I want to be free, baby, you hurt me. You don't love me. I want to be free, baby, you hurt me.
Lovely. And there's a middle way here, and the middle way is just because you're not angry doesn't mean you're any less strong. So I'd like you to be as strong as you were in the first performance, but let that strength come out in showing us your great sadness and grief, rather than any kind of petulance or anger. I thought you slightly undersung that second time, but certainly the anger had gone, which was good, but there wasn't enough substance in your grief. This is not a personal question. It's a person about the song. It's a question about the person in the song. How old is this woman?
Probably in her early 30s.
And you're in exactly, yeah. Funny, that was the age I had in mind. Okay, so you've lived a bit, yeah. And how long is it since the relationship was intense with this person?
Sorry, how long was it since it was intense?
Yeah, how long is it since you've been really together?
About 6 months or so.
Okay, fine. So it's fairly recent, but it's measured in months rather than weeks. Yeah. And something that's quite unique to you in this group, and which is wonderful, and although we have a fairly tight timetable, it's still wonderful, is the amount of time that you give before you start singing, and the amount of time before you actually answer a question and then give a very right answer. There's an object lesson to us all. So well done. Thank you. But now what I'd really like is to have the strength of the first performance, but the bleeding heart of that second one. see if you can weld those two things together in a very beautiful mix. If it's okay, I think we should go from the same place, do the same section again at the end, and give yourself permission to start louder. Yeah. Let your whole soul flood through the sound of your whole body. Yeah.
Okay.
You can take what I said to Harry, if you like, about the pebble going in the mouth, and it's 10 seconds before we hear it go chink when it falls on the bottom of the torso. You know, singing is something that involves the whole body. Actually, it does with most of you tonight, which is great. But you know, one can always allow that impression to grow. Yeah, make sure that your feet know what the head of what the hair of your head is doing. Yeah. Okay. Good. So, all the days spent together.
All those days spent together, I wish for better, and I didn't want a train to come. Now it's departing. I'm broken hearted because we never started. All those days spent together, and I wish for better, and I didn't want a train to come. You think you're loving, but you don't love me. I want to be free. Baby, you hurt me. You don't love me. I want to be free. Baby, you hurt me.
Yep. Great. That seemed to me to be the perfect balance. It wasn't just a compromise. It was a middle way, which gave you the sharpest and the most lovable and the strongest projection that you've got so far. Yeah. So just when you're singing something, make sure that you are make sure that you're in the center of the proceedings. Yeah. You're approaching it from your whole being and not just from well, I'm going to use a term which doesn't apply to how you've been singing, but you'll see why I'm using it. This is very much a first-person song. Don't let any trace of storytelling come into it. This is you pouring out your heart. And I often have to criticize singers who are singing a first-person song as if it was a third-person song, as if it was about, they were singing about somebody else. And the first time through a bit, you were singing about him, because you were you know, concentrating, I think, a bit more on how you were cross with him rather than just your own desolation. You're better than he is, yeah. So, you know, don't worry too much about him now, even though he still means a lot to you. Okay, that's lovely. Well done. Thanks. Good. So, bye-bye, Harry. You've got to go now, have you? Yeah. Okay. Oh, yes. You stayed an extra 3 minutes. I'm most flattered. Thank you. Well done. Good. So, Julie, our last one. I can't believe it. Time's gone so quickly. Every week I have a family Zoom, and I say it's the quickest hour and a half. We've got 3 children, 1 in Canada, and I say it's the quickest hour and a half of the whole week. So I'm really taking to the whole idea of Zoom. It does seem to make time pass extremely quickly. So, Julie, alas, you're our last, but by no means least. I don't think there's any least about people here. So, you know, over to you.
Hi, Robin. Lovely to meet you, and it's been lovely hearing all you've had to say to everybody beforehand. And I've been taking bits of it on board that I think matter to me at this point. But the song that I'm going to sing is You Belong to Me. And the version that I'm basing the song on is by Kate Rusby. And my husband is going to accompany me on the guitar. So I'm usually stand up. Should I stand up, do you think? Although I've been sitting down occasionally as well.
I'd already muted myself because I thought I was not going to say anything else until you stand. Yes, by all means, stand up, unless you particularly want to get the experience of what it's like sitting down. But I don't think that's a good idea.
No, I'm quite happy to stand up, so it'll be. I'm just going to push the screen back a little bit.
Yep, fine, okay. Be nice to see your face, but if you're standing up.
Apologies for this. Okay, make sure we can get it. Okay.
Yep, lovely, fine, good.
So here we go. Thanks everybody. Thank you. See the pyramids along the Nile. Watch a sunrise from a tropic isle. Just remember, darling, all the while you belong to me. See the marketplace in old Algiers. Send me photographs and souvenirs. Just remember, when a dream appears, you belong to me. I'll be so alone without you. Maybe you'll be lonesome too. Fly the ocean in a silver plane. See the jungle when it's wet with rain. Just remember, till you're home again, you belong to me. I'll be so alone without you. Maybe you'll be lonesome too. See the pyramids along the Nile. Watch a sunrise from a tropic isle. Just remember, darling, all the while you belong to me. You belong to me. You belong to me.
Thank you, lovely. Good. Now, in the context of this song, why do you need to sing this? Is it more for you or more for him?
More for him, I think.
Okay. Has he been a naughty boy?
Well, he's thinking about it.
Sorry?
He's thinking about it, maybe.
He's thinking about it. Okay, fine. I wasn't quite sure whether that element was in the mix, yeah?
There's a bit of doubt there, you know.
All right, fine. Yeah, okay. So I think you could be a little bit more lovingly insistent about it. I don't think you'll get very far by half telling him off. But you know, the breaths. Just remember, darling, all the while you belong to me. Yeah. I should be heartbroken if you know anything goes wrong. I have to go away on business, whatever, you know. But yeah, or he has to go away on business. But you know, we need to be back together again. Yeah, and it's best when we are. Okay. The start was odd. The first couple of lines didn't really seem to have much to do with the rest of the song. You didn't seem to get into a stride before you sang. So perhaps we can do the beginning again and basically start as you read Carry On, because the Carry On was very good. But at the beginning it was a little bit disjunct and disorientated.
Want me to stand up again? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah, if you're used to performing that way, I think that's okay. Probably how we should stay. Yeah.
I made a few mistakes around the way.
You did, yes, and you missed.
I do apologise.
You missed the text "and blue" once or twice.
What was that?
Well, I got here, I'll be so alone without you, maybe you'll be lonesome too, and blue.
Yeah.
Is that not part of what you sing?
Yeah, I don't know if that's in Kate Rusby's version, is it?
I think it was Kate Rusby's version I got the text from, but not to worry. I certainly heard her version,
Yeah.
and I thought it was lovely. You know, I think it's a good model for you. But then you're not Kate Rusby. You're a very different kind of woman, and that's fine. You know, I don't want you to. This business about modelling on other singers. You need to be very careful because you don't want to come out as a clone of them. You want to be more true to yourself. I'm not going to go down any further down that road. So let's start again and see. I'll probably stop you before you get very far in, but I just want to make sure that the beginning is as good as the rest.
Okay. Mhm. See the pyramids along the Nile. Watch a sunrise from a tropic isle. Just remember, darling, all the while you belong to me. See the marketplace in old Algiers. Send me photographs and souvenirs. Just remember, when a dream appears, you belong to me.
Okay, thanks, Julie. I'm going to stop you there just for two reasons. One is still about the beginning, I'd like you to feel totally responsible for the sounds of the guitar. After all, he wouldn't be playing those if you weren't about to sing. Yeah, so those are your responsibility. It's just that the sound's not coming from you. Yeah, so really own those, and you know, by the time you actually make your first vocal sound, it's as if you've already been making music with those chords. And the other thing is, it's funny because it goes right back to one of the things that I said to the very first singer we heard. It would be nice if it was not all roughly of the same dynamic. It would, if sometimes, you know, less is more, and maybe even this first time you sing, just remember, darling, all the while you belong to me. That could be very much quieter, yeah, as if it was something that was really intimate. You know, the pyramids along the Nile and the sunrise on the tropic isle. Wow, cosmic. But there's the two of us as well. Yeah, let's do it again. See what that gives. Okay, thanks. So you really own his sounds at the beginning. They're already your music making, okay?
Okay. See the pyramids along the Nile.
Okay, but I would like a crescendo through his last few chords that I can see that you're about, that I can see that you're about to sing to us, yes? Rather than just suddenly, oh, there's a singer as well. She's not just you know, sitting there listening enjoyably to his music. Perhaps you.
Sorry, Robin, can I just clarify then what it is we're trying to do here, because I'm maybe not quite sure.
Well, I don't get any sense of atmosphere at the very beginning. That's how I thought I was going to, but then it was as if a sort of screen came down when you started singing, and it took you 10 seconds or so to, well, I hardly let you have that, did I? Because it was so marked. I want you just to be an intensification of his sounds.
Okay.
Yeah? Hey, he's good, isn't he? I'd like to join him. You know, that kind of feeling.
Okay. See the pyramids along the Nile. Watch a sunrise from a tropic isle. Just remember, darling, all the while you belong to me. See the marketplace in old Algiers. Send me photographs and souvenirs. Just remember, when a dream appears, you belong to me. I'll be so alone without you. Maybe you'll be lonesome too. Fly the ocean in a silver plane. See the jungle when it's wet with rain. Just remember till you're home again, you belong to me.
Yeah, lovely. Okay, I'm going to stop you there for the moment because, yeah, you were allowing all that I asked to happen, but you were doing it in a very characteristic way of somebody who's not used to doing that, which is that, yes, you were doing what I asked you to do, but doing it late. You were already a third of the way into the phrase I'd asked you to sing quietly before you sort of remembered that I'd asked you to become quiet. And it would be nice if it had a breath that was telling us that you were going to be quiet. Yeah? So let's just, again, once more, just do the beginning. It's funny, some people need the ends worked on, and some people need the beginnings worked on. And you're very much a beginning person, so was Harry in a way. Once you get going, it's fine. But, you know, we really do need to be engaged straight away, because certainly in professional terms, there are some conductors who are notorious. They make up their mind about a singer in the first half minute they sing. It's not very kind sometimes. But you know, it's as well as if you don't sort of fall at that barrier, as it were, if you were you know, doing an audition, say. This time, remember in advance of just remember, darling, all the while you belong to me, and it would be 5 times more impressive and getting quiet as you sing it. If then later on you want really to make sure that you do start loudly and then you get quiet while you're singing, then that would be fine. But I felt it wasn't quite like that. It was, oh, he's asked me to do this quieter. You remembered halfway in. It also happened on another phrase. It happened the second time when you came back to that. That's why I waited to hear you sing the Just Remember Till You're Home Again. And it was the same thing there. So you need to give us some indication, unless you really want to shock us, that the next phrase is going to be, yeah. So last time from beginning, and I think as this is the last one in the evening, whatever happens, I think we'll let you sing right through the song. It's not that long. So there we are. Okay.
See the pyramids along the Nile, watch a sunrise from a tropic isle. Just remember, darling, all the while, you belong to me. See the marketplace in old Algiers, send me photographs and souvenirs. Just remember, when a dream appears, you belong to me. I'll be so alone without you. Maybe you'll be lonesome too. Oh, sorry, I've forgotten it, Robin. It just completely went there. Apologies.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
The aeroplane flying across the ocean, so.
Yeah. No, it was great because that will happen when you go outside your comfort zone and allow things to happen differently. That's why you do it in a laboratory like this rather than in a performance. That's one of the things that these kinds of situations are for. So yes, I was very happy with that. And the second, Just Remember, When a Dream Appears, yes, it was quite like the first, but it was quite different. And it led naturally into I'll Be So Alone Without You, which is something you've not told us before. And then we were really getting right into the mode, and then suddenly you thought, oh, I'm not used to being in this place emotionally at this point. So can we just start then with Fly the Ocean and a Silver Plane and go to the end? Okay. I don't see why you should be deprived of that just because you forgot once.
Oh, sorry, we're just not sure when we're coming in. Just give us a minute to get that right. Okay, here we go.
Yeah. Why don't you start with I'll Be So Alone Without You?
Okay, I'll be so.
Yeah, that'll be better. Overlap.
Okay. I'll be so alone without you. No, that's not right. Sorry, Robin, I can't get that. It doesn't feel right at this point. Right, it's going to give me an intro. We're not working well together, and I'm looking at the side, and I can't see him.
Oh dear. Okay.
I'll be so alone without you, we're going for. So if you can give me a wee bit before I'll be so alone without you. Maybe you'll be lonesome too. Fly the ocean in a silver plane. See the jungle when it's wet with rain. Just remember till you're home again, you belong to me. I'll be so alone without you. Maybe you'll be lonesome too. See the pyramids along the Nile. Watch the sunrise from a tropic isle. Just remember, darling, all the while, you belong to me. You belong to me. You belong to me. Apologies for all that.
That was lovely. Well done. And the one thing I'd made on my notes actually was about the last phrase. So we'll finish with that, which is you sing the text 3 times there at the end. The second time you sing it, which is on the same notes as the first time at the end, why don't you make that really sort of breathy and almost whispery? And we think, oh, she's going to end quietly. And then give us this wonderful top A. You belong to me, yeah, and make sure that your other half allows you to sit on that top A a little bit longer than the meter might suggest, so that we really know that this is the end, yes, and we feel that we've really been given full measure and running over at the end, and we don't feel that there ought to be a fourth verse because you haven't quite fulfilled your destiny the way in which you sang it. So I think we probably should stop there, but if you're really eager to just do the last refrain again, fly the ocean in a silver plane, to do those last 3 statements of the same text, with the second one more of a whisper, and the third one with allowing yourself to stay a bit longer on that lovely top note, which is such a surprise to those who don't know the song.
Want us to get it from Fly the Ocean?
Yeah, yes.
Fly the ocean in a silver plane. See the jungle when it's wet with rain. Just remember till you're home again, you belong to me. I'll be so alone without you. Maybe you'll be lonesome too. See the pyramids along the Nile. Watch the sunrise from a tropic isle. Just remember, darling, all the while, you belong to me. You belong to me. You belong to me. Sorry, Robin, I'd like to have done that a bit more dramatically, that last line, but
Yes, you didn't actually make it any longer, but you certainly made it more special and more final. The A was certainly had a good emphasis about it that was better than you had before. But I think finally, if you could work out that emphasis would be perhaps even more gorgeous if it was just a big sigh. You belong to me. Yeah, and we often have ritenutos at the end of a piece of music. It's a means of letting people know that it's coming to an end, and that they should be grateful. That they had a wonderful experience. So, thank you. Yeah, great, lovely. Well, thank you all. It's been a fascinating evening, you know, I hope that all goes very well for the concert, you know, look forward to hearing such things from someone in due course. So thank you.
Okay.
Very
Well,
much.
thank you so
Thank you.
much. It was really quite a wonderful evening. And what I noticed from watching was that what you had to all do this week is actually respond to feedback that you were getting on the spot and, you know, try new things out. So that was a really, you know, that feels like quite a significant step forward, because before you had some feedback on your performances and you got to mull on it over the week, but the actual having to change things during your performance and try new things out, it's a whole kind of different level when you're willing to just go deeper and deeper. So that's really beautiful to see. Just finally, like we always do, I thought that it would be really lovely if you it's not compulsory, but if you felt that there was something that you wanted to share. I know we're very against the clock. It could be, you know, some thanks for what came up for you or what really resonated, or some insight that you might have had just by watching all the coachings. I'd be grateful for that. Okay, Helen Douglas, let's start with you.
Yes, thank you so much, Robin and everybody else. It's been a fantastic experience. I think just to have you here with us and to listen to us and give such amazing feedback for us. And I've certainly really enjoyed it. And it's like a glimpse into Selwyn's world, which is great and something exciting to do. So thank you so much for everything.
Thank you, Helen. Miriam, I must say you look very, very wonderful with this dark light on you. Your face is becoming more pronounced. It's like, is she a model? This is what I'm starting to kind of, the way it's kind of all coming through. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say a huge thank you to Robin. Like I really enjoyed that, and that was really practical, and I was able to follow what you were saying, and you know, it's really good to sort of analyze in that way, and sort of like, yeah, just to get an insight into what you're doing, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Robin.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Marion.
I wasn't singing. You were doing all that.
Lorraine?
Unmute yourself, Lorraine, if you want to say something.
Yes, very nice to meet you, Robin, even virtually. And I think probably what you said in the first 20 minutes was really memorable and useful. And thank you so much for that. And also you might call it a tagline that is going to stick with me, I know, is may not have the words exactly right, but the humbly authoritative presentation. I really like that. That resonates with me a lot. I think Oprah would call it an aha moment, maybe.
Well, thank you.
And so that was really, really useful. And you were when I read your information about who you are and what your background is, I was really, really anxious, and I wouldn't say I was at ease, but you were very easy to relate to, and what you said was really helpful. So thanks so much for your time.
That's a pleasure.
Yeah.
That's why I put the last sentence in my biography this time about the summer school that I worked at for 25 years, where there was such a huge range of standards, and it's just as enjoyable to work with people who are less far along the road than it is with people who just need a little bit of professional polish at the end of the road.
Well, thank you. Really appreciated it. It was great.
Okay, Julie, let's go to you. You need to unmute.
Need to unmute. Yes, oh, thank you so much, Robin, for that. It's lovely to get feedback that you can use, you know, and as Selwyn said, you know, at the time, you know, sometimes it's a wee bit hard to change how you've been singing something for, you know, been practicing, and So it's quite hard to just think, oh, hold on, I need to do that differently or think about that differently. So, but I will be thinking about all the things you've said, and so it's lovely to hear everybody else's as well, because you can pick things up from other things you've said. You know, the eyes matter, and was something that I picked up on as well. That you emphasise that really does matter, that the connection really, you know. So I appreciate that. So thank you very much for your time as well. Thank you.
It's a pleasure, and you were in a minority of one tonight because you were the only person who was making music with somebody else. There were one or two people who were self-accompanied, but there's doing everything with the same body is a bit different from doing somebody else, and it's that sort of highlight that it's easier to change one person than it is to change two. And so often, you know, people don't think about singing unaccompanied unless you're in a folk club. They just think that it's always got to be with something, or with something which is already fixed, which we've become very used to in the period of lockdown, when we haven't even been able to be in contact with our pianists physically, and we've had accompaniments made, and we have to stick with them. But to have two things that need to be adjusted together is much more complicated than just one. So, you know, you had the toughest task in that direction tonight, but well done, because you know, the playing was increasingly beautiful, increasingly audible, increasingly confident, as was your singing. So it's great, but it takes a little bit longer to negotiate those things.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Helen Gallagher.
Yes, Robin, again, thank you very much for giving us so much of your precious time and for making us all feel at ease and valued. That's very important. And I took on board a lot of the things you said about my own stuff, but also a lot that was said about everybody else was very valuable also. And thank you so much for giving us all that information. I hope we can take it all in and make it work for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Joan.
See.
You're on. Yeah.
Yeah. Robin, it was a real pleasure. It's a new world for me. You took in so many different aspects of the music. The whole world came in, and the emotion, the body. I never thought about these things before, and I will have to think about them long and hard going on. But thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Joan. And for a few minutes ago, I thought I was about to give you a revelation, but then I chuckled to myself and I realized that if you've read what I wrote about the eyes, this won't be a revelation, it'll just be a reminder. But on an occasion like this, I feel very strongly what I put, that wonderful quotation from the French, Algerian French philosopher, Hélène Sixous, when asked what it was she really taught her students. And she said, I teach them what I learn from them. And you know, it's very true of an occasion like tonight. I just have to listen and watch, and just filter that through my experience. And you know, really, I'm teaching you what I'm learning from you. So thank you.
Okay.
Without you, it wouldn't happen. And thank you, Salwan, for organising all this enterprising project.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
It's an absolute honour.
Thoroughly in keeping with how I've come to know you these last 2 years, but all the same, it's still nice that it's happening.
I want to quickly share a story with you. When I first went, Robin does not know this, but
he's about to learn.
When I think it's in fitting with what everybody has said too. When I entered the conservatoire and had my first class with Robin, he used a Marianne Williamson quote. And instantly there was a kind of ignition within me. Oh my gosh, I felt there was some like possibility for connection between us. And then I had this kind of like, oh, I want to make music with him, you know, as I knew how well he could play. And then I think it was a couple of weeks later, I was reading his book list that you would have, I'm not sure if you included that in the iSheet, Robin, but he has like a book list of about 6 or 7 songs, or 6 or 7 books. And I read underneath this Robin Bowman, head of the Guildhall School of Music and Drama from a certain date. And I went, what? Whoa.
I was only head of vocal studies, someone. I wasn't the head of the Guildhall.
Sorry, I meant head of voice at Guildhall. It's, I think, the same thing in this context of singing. So yeah, there was like this, oh my goodness, and all this maybe not so mature energy kind of arose within me. Oh my goodness, you know, because I didn't realize that for like a few weeks into the course. And then, you know, it just struck me that in order for anything to work in a kind of a real or sincere way, I had to be completely authentic within myself and my own music, and not project, you know, oh, look how wonderful he must be, da 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 da. But it actually required me to be authentic within myself. I felt for something genuine and yeah, true to unfold. Oh gosh, whenever Robin was giving me some feedback on my final recital, and as a singer, I think it's true for most people, you're waiting for something nice to say, and like, me, da 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 da. And there was like a few minutes left on this video, and he had just said that he just said that's all he had to say. And I wondered, well, what is he going to say in these last few minutes? Was he going to say this about my voice? This is my mind going off a certain direction. And he actually thanked me for our friendship that had kind of unfolded over the, you know, the course of the couple of years. And yeah, it just struck me that that was quite a bit more significant than any, you know, aspiration that my mind had been after. And so when I see all of you tonight just having the courage to come forward and just put yourself under that real intense kind of creativity, in a sense, where you're having a creative input and you've got to respond to it. It just feels like all of you really made that commitment to be authentic within yourself. So I'm really grateful for that. And sorry, Robin, if I share.
No, I don't actually remember making that remark, but I absolutely stand by it, because it's true. But it's nice that it should have made an impression upon you like that. Yeah, that's great. Good.
Okay. Well, thank you all, and we'll see you next week. And I'll look forward to keeping in touch with Robin about how it all unfolded.
Oh yeah, please.
Okay. All the very best, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Okay.
Bye now.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.